Hello and welcome to the GEF Digital Media Zone. I'm Noriana Fernando from the World Bank. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Where are you coming from? Where are you watching from? We would love to hear. Let us know in the comments section. But in the meantime, I'm honored to be joined here by Rosina Bierbaum, who is the chair of the GEF Scientific and Technical Advisory Panel. She's also the Roy F. Weston Chair in Natural Economics at the University of Maryland School of Public Policy and Dean Emerita and Professor at the University of Michigan. You stay busy. So just start off by telling us a bit about your work in the advisory panel. What are some of your priorities right now and in the new year ahead of us?
I'd be happy to. So the STAP, the Science and Technical Advisory Panel, has two jobs. One is to bring the scientist world into the Global Environment Facility, so what new science is happening. But equally important is to take back out to the academic community the needs of the Global Environment Facility. And I would say that one thing I found that was surprising is that the academic and the practitioner worlds don't really meet that much. We academics think of long lists of things that could be done, and the practitioner world actually has to make something happen. And so it's a very interesting dynamic. But in terms of new science, I would say that our priorities right now are trying to cope with what we see as an acceleration in climate change and an acceleration in biodiversity loss. And I think both of these things combined are warning us that we may be approaching tipping points, if you will. And we're seeing some of these already at the only 1 degree Celsius above pre-industrial levels that we're at. So if you think about the melting ice, or you think about the Amazon, or you think about the corals, they are all at risk. So the Global Environment Facility is seeking to create transformational change, because we have to do it quickly. And what STAP is trying to do is help them figure out how, in this period of accelerating change, they can design projects that will be durable so that they will achieve the outcome they intended even in this accelerating change period, because past is no longer prologue. So we've been helping them identify principles for durable projects. We've been helping them think about how you could screen a project for risk from climate change or contribution to climate change, how you can avoid land degradation in the process of doing some of these, how chemicals and waste can also help. Chemical and waste projects can also help or hurt biodiversity. So thinking about co-benefits or ways that fixing one problem might interact and actually exacerbate another problem. So a lot of work to do, but we are working on elements of all of these, because past is not prologue, and we really do need to get on with addressing multiple problems simultaneously.
Past is not prologue. I love that. And looking ahead to the future, there is a lot to be worried about. Like you said, accelerating change and tipping points. What are you most optimistic about as we go into a new year?
So what I think is really worth celebrating is the fact that the lay person is beginning to wake up and realize that they are contributing to global change. And whether it's people thinking about their diet, whether it's them thinking about airplane travel and carbon dioxide emissions, whether it's thinking about plastics. And so I think the recognition that everybody has a role to play and has a role to play in fixing this problem is very important. I think the next thing I would say is that we're seeing the private sector really get concerned and begin to incorporate climate risk right into corporate risk management, because they are seeing that supply chains are being affected. Where something is grown is not necessarily where it's packaged or where it's shipped to or where it's used. And so since we are a global economy, an extreme event anywhere can affect a supply chain. And I think the third thing in the scientific world that has really helped is that we have improved what I would call the science of attribution. So we're really confident that there is a component of climate change that is adding to the excessive heat waves we're seeing, the excessive rainfall events we're seeing, and the spinning up of more powerful storms. So we are now able to link climate change to the extreme events we're seeing. And you know, if the private sector and the investment community are really activated about climate change, there is so much more money there than there is in the public sector to support transformational change.
And armed with this great knowledge and all these stakeholders, we're moving into 2020, which is being dubbed the super year. Can you tell me a bit about what that means to you as somebody so immersed in all this data and expertise? What does 2020, a super year, look like for you in terms of climate action?
Well, I told you what I was optimistic about, but I think 2020 really does have to be a super year, especially if you think about biodiversity. And of course, we're expecting the next round of biodiversity targets to be negotiated. We did not meet the first round. And the confluence of potentially 1 million species at risk, as we heard from the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, and then the acceleration of climate change and the impacts we're seeing already at 1 degree C, it's clear that 2020 better be a year where the political will and the scientific need come together to protect the planet for the generations to come.
Well, thank you. And on that note, I think young people are very much a huge part of this super year that we need to have, and very much at the front lines, arguably, of the climate change challenge. What advice, what kind of story or takeaway do you have for the young people watching us right now?
Well, you know, I think of two quotes. One by David Attenborough, who says, "Live life, don't waste it." And I think, you know, this is not a dress rehearsal for something else. This is your life. The second thing I would say is a quote from a great environmentalist, John Muir, said, "We find when we tug at one thing in nature that it is connected to the whole universe." And I think that is really what the Global Environment Facility and the world is dealing with now. The intersection of these increasingly complex issues of biodiversity loss, climate change, land degradation, pollution, they are all connected and they need to be solved in a systems way. And what I find so exciting is that the youth of today, trained differently than I was, find it much more natural to think in a systems way, to tackle a problem from 3 or 4 elements at the same time to get to a common and good solution. And so I think I would say, go walk in nature, be kind to nature, and think about how life is really supported by 3 interlinked things. One is environmental stability, one is economic stability, and one is social stability. And so as we all, and this next generation will have to solve the problems mine has not, as we all try to solve these environmental problems, we remember that it must be with an equitable society that also lifts people out of poverty.
That is really powerful, Rosina. Thank you. We're all connected. It's all connected. And we encourage you to find inspiration in your beautiful message. And with that, I thank you all for tuning in. And you can follow the work of Rosina and her colleagues online at STAP GEF. Thank you very much.
Thank you.